Hey everyone, welcome back. A couple of reminders. If you're in venue, please raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone to ask your one question and follow up. Those of you on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you as it works. Coach Freeman, your opening statement.
Happy Monday. It's been a long 48 hours of trying to really figure out what the heck happened on Saturday and why we didn't execute the way we have been previously, and what we have to do to fix it, right? And to do a better job that gives us a chance to perform better when it matters on Saturdays in the game. And so I think we've had some really productive meetings, had a good practice yesterday. The spirits of these kids in this program are unwavering, and that's the thing that everybody has to understand. As disappointed as we all are, and as we were on Saturday, the fight and the excitement to get a chance to play another game here in 5 days and to play for this university, it'll never change. It'll never unwaver. And so we look forward to another opportunity on Saturday. We look forward to getting back on the practice field tomorrow and getting back to work and preparing for a tough test in UNLV. And we know it will be a challenge, and we have to be ready to go Saturday afternoon. And so with that, I'll open up for questions.
We'll go third row on your left, Tim Priester.
Coach, two players from Saturday, one on each side of the ball. Safa Mensah had extended playing time because of the injuries there. But just what you've seen from him, that was his best game in Notre Dame uniform. His progress, and then also Logan Diggs the last two games has really run very physically between the tackles.
Yeah, Nana has really showed up, and I think that's the most the most amount of plays he's ever played. But it's the most production he's had too, and he's done a really good job developing in practice. And that's the one thing I said to Coach Washington Sunday when we were watching film. I said, how many plays did Nana play? He needs to play more. He's doing a heck of a job when he's in there and continuously finding ways to improve. And it's been really good to see. Logan's so talented. He's just a guy that we've really, over the past couple months, coming off the shoulder surgery, not playing much early in the season to where he's at now, has really stepped up to the challenge of the way he practices and the way he approaches game days. And what you see on Saturday is a reflection of that. The thing I love about Logan is his attitude, his team-first mentality of not counting how many carries he's getting, how many plays, but making the plays count. And it's really, really good to see.
I don't think I asked this properly after the game, but I want to try to give it another shot here. And basically what I was saying was that you've played 3 road games, arguably the 3 best teams that you've played and arguably the 3 best games that you've played. Lesser teams here, not so much. You haven't played well at all. I would imagine are you evaluating procedure at home and trying to put your finger on what has prevented you from playing better football here?
Yeah, and I probably should apologize for my response. I wasn't in the greatest frame of mind Saturday, but you're evaluating everything, Tim, and why haven't we played as well at home? Why haven't we played as well really versus maybe opponents that haven't been ranked as high, right? And it starts from the top down and looking at everything we do, the way we prepare, the way we motivate, what we do on game days, what we do at home versus what we do away. There is no just one answer, because if there was, we would fix it, But it's truly an evaluation of everything that goes into it and why we haven't been able to execute here, especially in Notre Dame Stadium and versus the opponents we faced, and what we have to do to correct that. And we're going to have a plan, and we're going to approach it in practice, and we're going to attack it, and in hopes that on Saturday the results, when it matters, are what you want.
Do you have to simplify the day when you're at home?
Maybe. It's not like it's – for our players, it's not like it's much different than we're on the road. It really isn't in terms of what they do from the moment they wake up on game days. The difference is the victory march here to the stadium, but for the coaches, it's different, with recruits, with what you're asked to do pregame wise. Maybe we have to simplify what we're doing to start the game. so we can start fast. That's one thing we haven't done. And the first part of the season was, how do we finish? We got to finish better. Then it was execution. Now you look back and say, okay, we haven't started fast. So what do we have to do to start faster? And again, I don't want to say if we start faster, the results are going to be so much better. No, but that's a part of what we have to do to have the success we want. And so we have to make sure we're having a plan to start the way we need to. Yeah.
First row on your right, John Bryce.
Hey, Marcus. You've talked a lot for several months now about the culture of the program. You just referenced a moment ago the commitment's unwavering. So not that you want to be going through any of this, but when you are going through this, what does it reveal to you about the culture, and how do you lean into it?
Yeah, you're going to have to be able to really stand your ground during these tough times. And there's been change. Our program's different this year than it was in the past. And you know what? To really establish something that's special, man, you're going to have to go through some challenges and some difficult times. And I've been through them. I've been at new places. I've been, in new situations where you have to hit these tough times. And again, nobody wants to go through them, but I know we're going to be better because, man, as I told the team, you have to understand that you can't always win it easy. And listen, nobody wants to lose a game, but this is going to build this program and our foundation to where it needs to be. And they're encouraged. We're going to be okay. We watch the film and evaluate and say, listen, we did not play to our standard. We know that. We have a good football team. I was a completely different person after Marshall. At Marshall, we lost Ohio State, we lost to Marshall, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was really, I was struggling. But listen, you the past 3 games, the second half of Cal, North Carolina, BYU, we have a good football team that we have to get to perform consistently. We have to do it consistently. So the culture of this program is we're going to have to embrace these tough times and these growing pains of getting this program to where we want it to be. And it's really, how do you get it there? It's going to be, we have to do a better job at executing. We got to do a better job at our preparation, and then on Saturday, making sure we execute the things we really work at.
You've referenced execution there again. You've referenced tough times. How much, as you go back and look at those factors, does it potentially impact how you evaluate recruiting, and maybe what you look at in terms of where you want to be in recruiting versus where you are each week when you watch video?
Yeah, we're always going to look to enhance our roster and be the best recruiting staff and get the best recruits in the country. There's no better way to continue to improve than to get the best talent that you can find. And so I don't want the result of a game to impact the way we recruit and we evaluate, and I don't care if we're 6-0 or 3-3, we better recruit at the highest level, and we better be evaluating the guys we're recruiting, the current guys, and where we need to go to enhance.
Second row on your left, Tyler James.
Marcus, when you're reviewing a game like Stanford, how much time does it take to sort of diagnose whether there's a certain amount of execution that was lacking from the coaching standpoint and a certain amount of execution from the player standpoint? And then how is that communicated to both the coaching staff and the players throughout the week?
It takes, I would say my feelings Saturday night in my office watching the game after, being here in the stadium were a little bit different than Sunday when you meet with the defensive staff and watch the game. You meet with the offensive staff and watch the game, and then you watch it again a couple times in your office. You're always, it's easy to put the blame on a certain group, a certain person, a certain coach, but there's areas for everybody to improve. And I felt a lot better Sunday after watching the game with the defensive staff and the offensive staff than I did Saturday night or in the Sunday morning when I was evaluating right after the game. And so how do you get that message and those lessons to your players? You're honest. And it's the same message I have after a win, is that we have to seek this feedback. We have to want to know how to improve. Don't tell us where, Coach, you did a good job here. What do I have to do to get better? It's a lot easier to do that, okay, maybe when you're down, because nobody wants to lose. And when you're down, Coach, we got to find a way to get this fixed. The challenge is when you're winning, do you have that same mindset of make me better, help me improve? And so these guys have to want to be coached. And our coaches have to coach them and make them better and coach every play and not look at the outcome of a play. And, our players were very receptive to it yesterday.
I imagine accountability privately looks a lot different than accountability from what you're telling us publicly. What sort of transparency is there in terms of, do you sit down with the players and say, hey, this is where we failed you as coaches, and these are examples of where we're expecting you to do this, and we need you to come through in these kind of moments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the first one to go up there and say, hey, here's areas where I have to improve, right? And I think every person in our program has to be transparent about that. The minute you start pointing the fingers at the players, you'll lose them. And the minute you just blame the coaches for everything, you'll lose them. And so it's the ability for everybody in our program to point the finger at themselves. And that's what I always say during difficult times and failures. It's an individual sport, right? And that we all have to point our finger at ourselves. When we have success, it's a team sport. Point your finger at your teammate. And so, listen, it's those are tough conversations. They're honest conversations that you have to have because we owe it to this program. We owe it to the seniors. We owe it to our players to execute better, to get the results to where it needs to be. And that takes taking a deep dive into what we're doing, why it is or isn't working, and how we fix it.
Third row on your right, Tim O'Malley.
Coach, a couple player questions as well. Could you discuss the growth of Xavier Watts? He seemed to have his best game of the season. He played more snaps at least and was coming up big on third down. And that safety rotation as a whole, basically the four of them, because with Ramon Henderson has kind of had moved into a niche role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, X was a guy that he has so much natural ability. He's still learning the position. And I said that he moved there partly through the season last year into the safety position. But he has a lot of natural talent. And he got a greater opportunity on Saturday because you took Ramon and moved him to nickel in replace of Tariq and Jaden Mickey. And so he did a good job with his opportunity. As long as X continues to grow, talent is one thing, but the skills to do it, to do exactly what your coach do or exactly what is necessary for the position is another thing. And so he's still developing that talent, that God-given ability that he has to be an elite safety. But I think he has all the ability in the world to do that.
I think I might have missed this. Why did Jaden Mickey miss the game?
He had a abductor strain, I think. Yeah, he was injured. Yep.
First row on your left, Patrick Engel.
Marcus, I'm wondering if you can update us on the injuries to Jason Amalola, Ramon, Mickey, as far as like prognosis or timeline, and then those three.
Jason was out yesterday, has a rib contusion. It's just going to take, a day, 2 days to get it to where, he's breathing better. But no structural, no bone damage, just a pretty good rib contusion that happened early in the game. Ramon, he's good. He tweaked his ankle. He practiced yesterday. Tariq Bracy practiced yesterday. And Jaden Mickey did not. He's still day-to-day in terms of where he's going to be in terms of for Saturday.
And then you mentioned earlier, like after Marshall, you were a different person. Like how much was that by design, just trying to change the messaging like you talked about previously? And if so, how much has that been something you've kind of tried to look at or figure out or think about since Saturday night?
Yeah, I think after Marshall, it was a lack of confidence. I hadn't won a game as a head coach, and until you have some evidence that, hey, man, all this work you're putting in is working, you're going to have a little bit of lack of confidence and lack of faith in what you're doing. But you're able to win 3 games in a row. So this is a good football team that beat some really good football teams. To beat a 6 or 5-1 North Carolina team, a good BYU team, and when we execute, we do things we're supposed to do. We're a really good football team. So there was anger after this last game because I know we're a good football team, and we did not play up to our standards. And that's the frustrating part, is that, man, you're a good football team. We play the way we're supposed to play, and we're capable of playing. We can beat anybody we play against. And when you don't, college football, the parity is close. You're going to lose. And you saw that on Saturday when we lost to Stanford. And so, the messaging is to let's fix the mistakes. Don't let this be a lack of confidence. and who we are and how good we can be. Let's make this about what's the true issues of what happened on Saturday.
First row on your right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned leaning into the culture and that these guys are going to play to a standard and so forth. But in terms of looking at what's out there for them in December, what's out there for them after Thanksgiving weekend, what do you talk about the incentive from that standpoint?
To beat UNLV.
Okay.
We're not talking about a bowl game or we're worried about this next opportunity that we have on Saturday. And the minute you start focusing on that, you know what? You're gonna lose the attention of your group, and you're gonna lose a game to a good opponent in UNLV. And so we can't worry about 6 games from now, right? We have to worry about taking care of what's right in front of us. And so that goes into the messaging for this week. Like, don't worry about Saturday. Don't even worry about that. Worry about what you're doing on Monday and Tuesday, right? Worry about Tuesday's practice. I want this to be the best Tuesday practice that we've had all year. And guess what? After Tuesday, we'll focus on Wednesday. But the minute you start daydreaming and drifting to, okay, if we win 6 in a row, okay, we're going to go to a bowl game. And what bowl game we're going to play? You're losing the attention that it takes to have success versus a team like UNLV. And one, we can't disrespect that team because they're a good football team. And 2, you're doing a disservice to the seniors and the guys in this room right now.
You had mentioned that Drew Pine never lacks confidence, and in the game, at least outwardly, it looked like there was a little bit of shaking. I'm curious, he was kind of on an upward trajectory each week. With this divot of last week, how did he respond in practice Sunday?
Oh, he was good yesterday. He was disappointed in the performance on Saturday. The thing about Drew is he feels like he let us down. He let the coaches down. He let his team down, and we all let each other down. We all have to perform better, and we have to put him in positions to perform better. And you're right. Sometimes I take his confidence for granted, and anybody in that position, when you're not having early success, I'm sure your confidence can be shaken. He doesn't show it too often, but I know his confidence was shaken a little bit. And so in turn, what do we have to do as coaches? We have to put him in position to have confidence. We got to be able to get him some easy throws, be able to run the ball effectively, so now his confidence can take back over. And that's where we got to help Drew Pine out.
Third row on your left, Pete Byrne.
Hey, Coach. I want to build on that. I think twice in the last couple of days we've heard you say we need to put Drew Pine in a better position. What do you believe is the best position to put him in?
Well, I think it's, again, if you're able to run the ball with success, your offense is moving and you're able to, I think, build that confidence. You really go back to the Cal game, and what happened from the first half to the second half was the ability to run the ball, which really helps your confidence. You even look at the North Carolina game, some of those big runs helped Drew, really establish that confidence that he threw some unbelievable balls. And the same thing at BYU. And so we had a plan to try to take advantage of some throws we thought that were going to be there on Saturday. We didn't hit them. And what we have to do is a better job of saying, okay, let's go back and build this confidence. Let's go back and do the things that we feel like can have success. Now, you can have a plan to run the ball. If they stack the box and you're not able to run the ball, you got to spread it out and throw it. And so they did a good job of trying to force us to throw the ball, and listen, it's a lot easier to throw a shallow route or a RPO with Mike Mayer leaking behind the line of scrimmage than it is to throw a 15-yard dig, and so we have to try to find ways to create those easy throws, easy completions, run the ball until the confidence is built where Drew's Drew and he can make those difficult passes.
This season, you guys have had pretty good success getting Mayer the ball. I think Stanford, they paid a lot of attention to him and maybe took him out of the game better than other opponents have. From a defensive frame of mind, if you're going to do things to take a tight end out of a game, what does that leave you vulnerable to? Like, what would you worry about?
Yeah, it's going to leave you – you're going to be one-on-one on some other some other positions. No matter if you're playing man or zone, you can bracket Mayer and play zone on the other side and have some open zones, or you can bracket Mayer and play man on the other side, but you're going to have some one-on-one situations on the backside. And so they did a good job. Sometimes they double covered, sometimes they triple covered, and then all of a sudden they single covered it. Well, Drew, early in the game, you want to force it in there. We got to get the ball to Mike Mayer, and then all of a sudden, after 2 series, you're like, okay, they're double covering Mike Mayer. Let's go somewhere else. And then the minute you go somewhere else, they're not double covering. He's open, and we don't hit it to him. And so they did a good job defensively. I thought they did a really good job of, at the right time, trying to say, you're not going to be able to run the ball. We're going to put an extra hat in the box at certain times, doubling Mike Mayer. And you know what? And that's where we, as an offense, and have to say, okay, we can't always depend on Mike Mayer. It's easy to do that. It's easy to just say, okay, go to Mike Mayer here, and usually he's going to win. But we have to be able to go through our progression, and that's the tough part about it, because sometimes your progression leaves Mike Mayer one-on-one and you're saying, let's go to Mike Mayer. But if that's sometimes your first read, then somebody else might be open. So it's an evolution on making sure that, hey, you got a chance to get the ball to a dominant player, get the ball to him, but also we cannot force things to Mike Mayer. We got to let the game happen.
First row on your right, Pete Sampson.
Marcus, you said, talking to the offensive staff, watching the tape, you felt better about the offense on Sunday. I was curious where, and I don't know if this is like an example of like when Drew overshoots Lindsey, when they're really keyed in on Mayer. Is that one of those plays where you're like, okay, this is the play we need you to execute because like it's set up for it. It's something that you would feel good about moving forward because that play can be there.
Yeah, it was. You saw it was pretty wide open. I think Drew wants that one back too, and we didn't hit it. But that same drive, you get Michael Mayer for a touchdown, and we get called for a penalty because we're not lined correctly. And so when I say I felt better, at least I had answers to my questions, right? And so when I'm watching the games Saturday night, Sunday morning by myself, sometimes I don't have anybody to get answers to. I got a lot of questions, but I'm going to leave those guys alone and let them go to bed, and I'll get with them in the morning. And so I felt better because, one, I had the answers. But the other part of feeling better is, okay, why didn't we do it? What do we got to do to do it? And that takes practice. That takes game plan and going out there and do it. But you're right, man. We got a chance to hit Braden Lindsey on the corner post one-on-one, and he's open. And we don't hit him. That's what we got to execute. And trust me, it's a lot easier for me to – I can't throw that ball. Drew Pine can. I know he can. And so we got to make sure that we're running that route or doing it more. I can't just sit here and say he's got to make that throw. No, how do we help him make that throw? We got to throw it more in practice. We got to, we got to somehow – there's got to be a way to get the results that you want without just saying this is what I want. And that's what us as coaches have to figure out. Instead of just saying this is what he should do, let's figure out a way to make sure he does it. That's a part of our discussions on Sunday was there's certain things in football that they're 100% is what we said. I said there's certain things in football that there's only one answer. So we have to make sure in those situations that our guys are doing the one option that they have. We have to eliminate the things that there's multiple options, and part of football you do have multiple options. But if you're supposed to be in the B gap, there's no other option. If you're supposed to go here with the ball, there's only one option. Go there with the ball. If you're supposed to make the cut in the A gap, well, there's no way he could be in the B gap because that's the only thing he's being told. That's it. He's not insubordinate. He's going to do what he's told to do. So what we got to do a better job of coaches and saying, okay, here's the 100%ers. What does that mean? 100% of the time, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. You go do it. And stop having so many options for our guys.
In short yardage run games, 3rd down, 4th down, you have a really strong offensive line, 3 good backs. The percentages are I'm sure not where you want them to be or think they should be. Are there 2-3 things you would point to, or is it just like maybe what you referenced earlier that opponents are now going to put an 8th guy down there, a 9th guy down there, and you got to figure out a zig to their zag?
Yeah, we're right about 50% right now on short yardage, and we want to be at 75%. I mean, that's the least the number you want to be, if not higher. When we got to look at why, we had a plan. I think about the 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 we had on the 5-yard line, and we had a plan all week to say, okay, they've shown to stack the box. They stacked the box. We're going to be able to get it on the jet sweep to JT. And then all of a sudden, I hear Coach Reese over the headset saying, oh, shoot, that's not the look. I probably at that moment should have called a timeout, but I still felt confident, okay, just run it. And they did. Made a heck of a play. Spun the safeties, made a heck of a play. The guy did a good job setting the edge. And so, but then you convert 2 other times in the game, And so we want to be 75, if not higher percent on those short yardage situations, but you're not always for certain what you're going to see. You can game plan all you want, but the other opponent they game plan too. I've been on the defensive side, and a lot of times what you do on the defensive side is you game plan yourself. You self-scout and say, okay, what have I shown in short yard situations? What have they done? Okay, we don't want to do this. Let's give them something they haven't prepared for. And so it's a chess match, and they were able to stop us on the 5-yard line, which is a situation that we're going to be aggressive, man. We're going to be aggressive. We'll get 4th and 1, 4th and 2. We're going to have beliefs in our backs and our O-line that we're going to get a first down. Obviously we want to convert in that situation, but it was good to see him convert in the other 2 situations.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horka.
Marcus, on the flip side of Pete's first question, when you were watching the game, specifically with the offensive staff and by yourself as well, what did you kind of come away thinking we need to be better at offensively? What kind of things were you saying that's not the way it's supposed to look? And then how would you evaluate the offensive play calling as well?
Well, I think we got to start the game faster. We got to start the game with more urgency. We got to be better out of the locker room, and that's something that, in the course of the season, we've have to improve at. We start the game with 3 and out. The very first play is a penalty. We can't have penalties not on the first play of the game. The second play, we don't execute the way we want it. We end up having a punt on 4th down. The second series, we got a 3rd and long situation, and we don't execute. Mayer's open. We don't hit him. We got to do a better job there. And then that 3rd series after the punt block, we get the holding call on Mayer. We get the holding call on Mayer. We get the Mayer's touchdown called back, then we miss Braden Lindsey. Those are situations where we have to eliminate the errors. We have to eliminate those self-inflicted wounds, the penalties. I just gave you 3 penalties in the first 3 series that it can't happen. And when we have somebody open, we got to convert. Now, what do we got to do? We got to look at what we're calling, and hey, is there something else we're calling that could help us kind of get the drive started? And we have drive starters. Our offensive staff spends endless amount of time on drive starters. How we want to start the game, and there was a plan. This is exactly what we wanted. Versus this look. Well, the very first play, they gave us the look we wanted. We get a penalty. The 2nd down play, we don't do what we're supposed to do. And so, again, it goes back to, okay, let's look at our plan, look at what we're calling, right? Now let's look at why aren't we executing? What do we have to do to make sure we do a better job at executing that opportunity?
Then how would you assess the way Mitchell Evans played in his season debut, and how big would it be to kind of have a number 2 guy after Kevin went down?
Yeah, it's I thought he did a good job. I don't know exactly how many plays he played, but he played a good amount, and it's good to have Mitchell Evans back. I think he brings something to our offense in the run and the pass game. You add him in addition to those 2 freshmen with Eli and Holden. Our tight ends room, I think, is in really good hands with Michael Mayer, obviously, but without Michael Mayer, too, in the future.
Final question this afternoon comes from Mike Berardino, 2nd row on your right.
Hey, Marcus. I wonder if at a time like this you hear from Jim Tressel or you reach out to Jim Tressel because you look back at 01 and there were some missteps that year and obviously the quick turnaround. That Wisconsin loss in particular might have been the algorithm there of the matchup with Stanford. Do you hear from him, and what resonates now?
Yeah, I hear from. We talk often, weekly. I won't get too in depth on our conversations. Some are football. His opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion. And I respect his opinion. But more so this that, hey, you'll be fine, man. He struggled his first year. I think back to our first year at Cincinnati, it was a struggle, and that's what I keep telling myself, to build something the right way, and I can't build on what's been done in the past. All right, what Coach Kelly did here was tremendous, right? And what the wins and the success he had here. But I can't come in here and say, okay, I have to be Brian Kell. I got to be Marcus Freeman. And it's different. It's different. So I got to build this thing with the current players that we have, right? The great players that we've recruited in the past. But you're still building your foundation from the ground up. And you have to go through some of these growing pains, man. And you know, it's just a part of being, it's something new, and we have to make it ours. We got to make it mine, and anything worthwhile, I believe in my life, it's going to take some growing pains to get it to where you want it.
And then maybe kind of related to that, you mentioned the 100%ers, the things that are kind of the no-brainer decisions for players to simplify.
Yeah.
Halfway through your first season, are there even some of those fourth down decisions? You know, you've gone 4th and 2 a few times. That's different than 4th and 1. Are there some things, time and situation, scenarios in those, maybe those morning conversations you guys had as a staff? Do you have many of those built up now where you can say, this is what we do, this is what I want to say, or is it still everything's case by case?
Yeah, I think you always go back and reflect. I have a plan going into the game. This is what I want to do in these short yardage situations. I think back to, you know, even going for 2 versus BYU, right? Should we or should? I knew it in that situation. It said go for 2. The book says go for 2. Hey, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to go for 2. You know, going back, we didn't convert it. You know what I mean? Same thing here. That 4th and 2 situation on a +5, I'm going to be aggressive. And but to me, it's going back and saying, okay, how do we find a better way to execute, right? How do we find a better way to convert? We should be able to convert on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2. You know, I want to be smart, backed up situations, but, you know, the percentages of chances to get a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 in those short yard situations are pretty high. We just have to make sure we're converting. Okay.
One more question for you guys. Angelo DiCarlo, second row on your right.
Coach, your offense has kind of been Jekyll and Hyde this year, sometimes really high, sometimes low. How important is a consistency, a base for your offense in order to be able to succeed each week?
Yeah, I don't know which one's good or bad, Jekyll or Hyde, but I want to be the one that's good, you know. You want to be good. You want to be efficient. You don't want to be up and down. And again, you got 2 different quarterbacks and kind of 2 schemes you are running with each guy. I really think from the second half of Cal, you can even say the second quarter, but the second half of Cal to the end of BYU, we were really, really good. We've done a good job. Not every time do you score, but the efficiency that you have of moving the ball, right? And what you feel, your execution is where we needed it to be and where we want it to be. You go to Stanford and you don't execute the way you want to. And so I don't question who we are offense. I don't. You know, I have the utmost confidence in Coach Reese and our offensive staff and what we're doing. We just have to execute better. And I know that you guys get tired of me saying that, but you go back and you say, okay, the game plan, you really look at North Carolina and BYU, the game plan wasn't that much different. We still had similar philosophies of what we wanted to do, but the execution was better. It was. And why? What we got to look at is why was it better in BYU? Why was it better in North Carolina? Why wasn't it efficient versus Stanford? And that's, to me, the challenge of saying it's not the play calls. It's not what we're doing. It's why we're not executing and what we have to do to fix it.
And then what's been your progression on the offensive side of the ball from maybe your knowledge base there compared to the beginning of the season and then certainly compared to the off season and when you first started?
It's growing. Listen, I'm able to give my input into, you know, at first was kind of mostly learning what we're doing and you know, speaking from a defensive mindset. Hey, here's defensively what I think they're doing. Here's what I would do if I'm going against you guys. To now being able to understand the offensive philosophy. Hey, here's where we're attacking. Here's where I ID, and this is what we want to do, the progression. And so I'm no offensive guru, and I'll never be an offensive guru, but I think the growth personally has been good, and it must continue to happen.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.